guys, welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum. In today's episode, I thought I should do some thoughts on some recent horror media, we'll call it that, that I recently read. I recently just finished a horror comic series that I had seen on social media, and I also just finished a novel, which I'd also seen on social media. So I'm going to talk about both of them, my thoughts, and tell you where you can find them. Spoiler alert, I was super into both. I'm going to start with the comics. So, when I first started the Voices Facebook, it's been a while, sometime last year. When I first did that, I didn't have a lot of pages that I followed at the time because I was still trying to get acclimated with the horror stuff that was available outside of stuff I followed on my personal page. So one of the ones that I found that I get a lot of horror news and movies and stuff from is Dread Central, which I've mentioned numerous times before. They're a really good resource for that sort of horror information that's not going to be in like mainstream media, including these. So, they shared an article about an upcoming comic series called Damned Cursed Children. And I want to say at the time that I saw the original article, I want to say there was only two, I think there was only 2 episodes around, or numbers, or what am I trying to say? I think there were only 2. Anyway, but I shared it because I thought that the art and stuff from what I'd read about it, looked really neat. And so I shared it on the Voices Facebook, and then one of the collaborators actually sent me an email telling me, his name is Josh Stafford. He told me that he really appreciated the share, that he loves, like it made him really happy to see positive excitement about it on the social media thing. And so so he emailed me, and I was like, that's really cool. Like, obviously when you're trying to promote, you reach out and you do things, but the fact that he took the time to email me, I thought was really, really cool, and it kind of made me even more interested in reading it. It's kind of like the same reason as when I buy prints from like an Etsy horror artist shop owner kind of thing, and they're amazing, and so I just keep buying from them because I certainly know that the little bit of a following I'm starting to gather is super meaningful to me. And so, I try to be that support, and I try to share the less common, and I try to get the word out about the smaller writers and the people who haven't gotten their big break yet, because they will, because their stuff is phenomenal. And so I believe in that. So anyway, when I saw that, I finally got back around to his email, and he sent me where to find it, because it's done by, what is it called? Source Point Press. By the time I got around to ordering them, there were 3, but they had release dates for 4 and 5, and 5 is the final installment. So I'm going to share some of them with you, and I'm going to talk about the things that I loved about them and why I thought they were so awesome. So this is the cover of the first one, Damned Cursed Children #1. The comics are in black and white, but I love that the cover photos are in color, because it's just, I don't know, it just adds something really neat to it. This is the one for the second. Try to make it where you can see it's like super dark. And they kind of go on and like that. Now they do ask on the front of them who will die, so I don't want to give any spoilers away, so I won't show you the rest of them, because one or two of them is kind of obvious with the cover, but if you haven't read the one before. Yeah, so essentially the story is these children, anyone prepubescent age, they just all of a sudden they just start acting crazy, and they start eating people and tearing up all over the world. It's not secluded into this one town, but we meet a couple characters throughout the 5 installments, and I think it's so funny because when I first started reading them, I was instantly intrigued and super into it. I like anything zombie-esque, anything with gore, so I was already super into it. And I will tell you, I'll show you a couple of the pictures. There's one in particular, and I don't remember which novel it was in. Maybe this first one. It's either this one or the second one. But anyway, I digress. But so they've got these scenes with these kids, and when I first started watching, when I first started, I found the one I was looking for. So when I first started reading it, it was almost comical. Like, it was just like, this is so great. Like, I was so into it. But then it was funny because I didn't quite expect myself to become as invested in some of the characters as I did. So I'm like, as we're going through the story, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm like piecing who is who, and like getting invested in the stories of the people who might die and the situations that they're put in. And I'm not a super big horror comic person per se. I've read a couple. I intend to find and read more, but it's definitely not something that I'm overly familiar with as a genre in the comic world. So like, I didn't really know what to expect, but I did not expect in such a short period of time to be so invested in a story. And I was super happy with the way that it ended. I felt like it was a great little wrap up. And I loved it. I thought it was really, really, really well done. So it was done. There's a couple people mentioned on it. Howard Wong, Josh Stafford, and Robin Simon NG. I'm not 100% sure what that part means, but they were the ones that did this. So it was written by Howard Wong and Josh Stafford. Josh Stafford is the guy that emailed me. The art was by Robin. Editor in chief Travis McIntyre. Art director Joshua Werner. But yeah, so you can get all of these on from Source Point Press. I'll put a link to them. But yeah, so this is one of my favorite parts. Like, when I got to this, it just like filled my little horror heart with so much happiness. And because it's dark, I'm hoping you'll be able to see it. This is a scene where the teacher is finding some of her other coworkers being demolished. And I can't really say why I like it so much. But I think that it's important to note, like, in the comic world in general, like, your attention to detail in your pictures is sometimes more important than the blurbs of conversation. Like, in fact, there's not very much conversation until the second one. It's a lot of like little short blurbs, and it's mostly just effects and chaos, which I loved. But yeah, the attention to detail, the way the kids are drawn, the scenes, the characters are super lovable and funny. They have a millennial character that is a riot. Like, I actually really enjoyed her character a lot. She's very, I don't know what else to compare her to, but she's very Buffy-esque in the sense that she's like, I'm going to get coffee because we're out, and then she's just like kicking ass. Like, I really liked her character a lot. And for these to be such quick and easy reads, it really pulls you in. And I mean, well done. I mean, I would absolutely look at any other project that they did. I think they did a really great job. I don't want to ruin it by sharing too much of the art. I don't think that's fair to them. I think you should check them out. They're super affordable. I got mine. They were packaged super, super well. They had protective sheets over them and cardboard to keep them from bending, which I'm going to put them back into the moment that I'm done with this. But I really liked it, and it was definitely a good motivator for me to look into more stuff like this, because while I don't normally have time to read and look at things, this is kind of having to make content kind of pushes me to make time for the things that I do really like. So I really enjoyed reading these. I even shared them with one of my coworkers who's not like a big horror fan, and even she got quite a kick out of the first one as well. So, Damned Cursed Children. It was really good. I liked it a lot. So that leads me into the novel that I just completed, which is called The Atrocities by Jeremy C. Shipp. This is the cover. I don't know how much of it you'll be able to see because it's really dark. It's very pretty though. I don't remember exactly how I found them. I am relatively new to the Twitter game. I'm still trying to navigate it and learn it. But I started adding and following people that shared a lot of horror content, and they were one of the ones that came up. And so I followed them. I saw the post about the book, and I saw other people raving about it, and I thought I really need to check it out. So I'll post a link below to where I got it. I got my copy off of Amazon. And it was it's not a brand new book. They actually published this, according to this, April of 2018. It's just a couple years old, and I do know they are working on another book, because they post about it on Twitter sometimes. But so I'm just going to read the back of it. When Isabella died, her parents were determined to ensure her education wouldn't suffer. But Isabella's parents didn't inform her new governess of Isabella's condition. And when Miss Valdez arrives at the estate, having forced herself through a surreal nightmare made of twisted human like statues, she discovers that there is no girl in Tudor. Or is there? Um, so I just to give you some insight into kind of how they are as a person. Um, this was one of the things that they posted in regards to their book. I don't need every person on the planet to read my books. I'm simply hoping to connect with my intended audience of weird horror fans and gothic fiction lovers and animated scarecrows and possessed Victorian dolls and Kookaburra demigod demigoddesses, which is hysterical. So I think when talking about horror novels, horror books, you kind of rely a lot on the details within the story to kind of paint this picture for you. And one thing I can say above everything else that I feel about this book is that Jeremy got that part right. There's some parts where, in the very beginning, when Dana, the new governess, when she is going through the maze and she's seeing these statues, they're horrifying. And the amount of detail that goes into describing what they look like paints such a clear picture, but also allows you that little bit of room for your imagination to kind of dive into like just to what extent you feel uncomfortable by thinking about these images. And then there's also parts where she sees these paintings throughout the house, and they are just as horrifying and alluring at the same time. And they're very, reminiscent of Gothic style horror, which is something that I miss. It was one of the things that I made me so disappointed in some movies and really like about other movies is going back to the roots of that, like, different style, different take on horror. I thought this was super super well done in that regard. I don't actually think that I don't think I have anything negative to say. As I mean, I think that I loved the characters. I think the way the story twists and bends, it really leaves you questioning, much like Dana, like what the fuck is going on? Like there are parts where you think you've got it. You're like, oh, okay, and then something will happen. You'll go, oh, maybe not. Like, but and it's from the beginning, from the very first page that you're reading, you're engulfed in the story. Like, you don't want to stop reading until it's done. I think somebody said that. Yeah, so one of the reviews on the front of it, Ship's clear, insistent voice pulls you down the rabbit hole and doesn't let you go. And that was a review by Jack Ketchum. I definitely agree with that. I think it's super captivating. And I really loved it overall. It was funny because I have to find time to read, kind of when, my toddler is up. And there were times where I would like make noises or I would say things out loud and he would be like, what's wrong? Because he was concerned. I just thought that was super funny because it was one of those things where like, I just got so into it. It's almost like you forget that you're not a part of it. And I thought the ending was great. I think that visually I could see all of this. And I saw something recently where there's some people taking on the project to turn it into a film. And I think that's super exciting and fun. And awesome for Jeremy because I think the story is great and it's worth being told, and I hope more people see it. I think it has a lot of it reminds me of a lot of different things. It reminds me of there's a horror game called Layers of Fear, which I have talked about in a previous video when I played a game by the same team that developed it, that has to do with paintings and really like gothic crazy paintings where he starts using human remains as his like painting tools and stuff. And I think like there's a couple of descriptions where I was like, that totally sounds like some shit from Layers. Like it's just nice to be able to connect it to other things that I really loved because it also kind of helps fill in those gaps of like what I'm trying to picture in my mind when I'm thinking about them. And I think it reminds me there's some Silent Hill elements. There's a lot of different types of horror things that it reminded me of in such a great way. One of the things that I think they did a really great job of is there's these little like nuggets of familiarity with the story, with the concept, with some of the tactics and the buildup of it all, right? But it's all done in such a unique way that it's not comfortable. You know, it's familiar, but it's uncomfortable because it's not so familiar that you've heard it 100 times or you've read it a million times or you know exactly how it's going to end and you can predict every scene because it's overdone content. That's not true with this book at all. So I think they did a great job of balancing the familiar with the uncomfortable. I think that was super well done. So I'm done rambling. Yeah, so I really loved both. I really loved Damned Cursed Children, really loved the Atrocities. I think they're both really well done. They have Jeremy has other books that I have looked into, and I will probably take a look at and see what they did with those because some of them sound way different than this. So I'll be very curious to see what they did with those stories as well. So that is my thoughts on those two things. So through following Jeremy on Twitter, I have found other authors and such that I intend to look into as well. And I think it's great. I really liked both. Really up my alley. So that's it. That's my wrap up on the Atrocities and Damned Cursed Children. I'll put links to their stuff below. Hope you guys had a good week. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I will see you in the next one.